Hello and welcome to ONS 2020 podcast series on the theme of Together. And in these interviews, we're going to be focused on what it takes of leadership to drive collaboration and togetherness in the energy industry at a time of radical transition. My name is Nashater Deu Solheim. I'm the author of The Leadership Pin Code and CEO of Progressing Minds. I'm going to be your podcast host today, where I'm joined by Leif Johan Sevland, who is the CEO of ONS. It's great to have you with us today, Leif Johan. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. I really look forward to this conversation.
Me too. So let's start with the most important question first. How are you in these days, and how are the family doing?
Yes, and of course, the most important thing nowadays, as you're saying, is how are the health for everyone. I'm fine. My family are fine. Probably we have too much good food when we're at home. We left the ONS floor 1.5 weeks ago. Okay. Home office for everyone works perfectly. I have a fantastic team, and they are following up in a very, very good way. So the progress of the ONS is going fine. And as I know, the health situation for everyone are good. Always remember to get out a bit, fresh air. Use your body in not a way that just sitting in the chair and talking to a lot of people. So that's the most important thing, and keep distance to other ones. It's not easy.
No, true.
But that's life for the time being. We have to follow the advice given by the authorities. So, and we all do so.
Exactly. We do. And I'm in the same situation, working from home office, trying to keep well. Thankfully, my family are also well. We're doing our best to adjust to the climate. And I guess that's something that we all have in common right now. You know, maybe perhaps a few months ago, we saw ourselves in very different situations, and now we definitely have a lot in common, and something I think that brings us together. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, which is how the industry, the oil and gas and energy industry around us, is going to be responding to the changes that we see, both for the industry in transition, but also now, given the challenges that we're facing with the coronavirus. Let's start with that. The industry this is not the first challenge or crisis it's been through. You and I know that, and probably most of our listeners do too. So it's shown robustness and resilience from some of those crises it's handled before, and has been very adaptable. What's your assessment of the current situation we're in?
For sure, it is a challenging situation. And we are facing two different crises, actually. We have one, the health, the corona crisis, which truly inflict every one of us and the industry as well, of course. Right. Then at the same time, we have some countries who have decided to produce more oil and gas than ever before, almost, in the time where the world don't have that need. So we have an industrial crisis going on. As you are saying, it's not the first one. I could add it's not the last one. But nevertheless, it's a really challenging one because it happens so fast and the price is so low. And they need to be taking actions from the companies, which is, of course, it should be long-term thinking. But also when the income is lost, almost lost, then you need to do action immediately. But we have learned a lesson from 2014, the crisis we have been to then. I think it's a much more stable situation for the industry. The leaders do their very best to do the long-term thinking, but also there's a financial situation. And then, of course, the industry need to take care and be sure that everyone being employed in the industry is safe, that everything works in a good way, which also must be a huge challenge, especially for the people working offshore, etc., etc.
So do you have any thoughts really on how it's going to impact the industry itself when it comes to, for example, the oil market, the development of renewables? Will we see a very different portfolio in the energy supply going forward?
Yeah, which actually, and there's, we don't know yet for how long the crisis will last. Right. In 2014, when OPEC disagreed in Istanbul in August, most of the people said that, okay, this is going to work for about a month or two, and then they're going to find a solution. Hopefully, something like that could happen this time as well, but we don't know for sure. And if this situation is going on with the overproduction, it's going to be real challenging on a long-term basis. And then we will see that some oil provinces, some gas provinces with high cost, high levels, is going to have huge challenges in the profit they are making, and also investments for the future is going to be less than predicted. For renewables, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. You know, the oil price is going down. The cost to produce oil is less than it used to be. The cost, but the price of oil is less than it used to be. What would happen with the renewable situation then if people could get cheaper oil and gas than they used to do? I hope that we see long-term thinking. I hope for sure that we see leaders who would have one common goal, which is the climate, and to actually work with the renewables, technology, financial instruments, etc., to bring in more offshore wind, to bring in more solar, etc. But there is, of course, an uncertainty there. What's going to happen? I hope that the globe will win and the CO2 emission will be reduced due to more renewables. But it might be a challenge that people want to invest in new energy for the time being, and a bit of uncertainty on the global market.
And those are some of the dilemmas I know that, you know, many of the leaders in the industry now are struggling with. And after the last crisis, there was a lot of effort, wasn't there, in focus on cost cutting, reducing, being more efficient, suppliers working closer with the operators, for example, in reducing some of those costs where they could. I wonder whether you have any reflections on, is there more that they can take out? Did they keep to those promises they made about keeping costs low? And is there even more they can still do? Or are we really going to struggle to find where we can be even more cost efficient going forward?
And there will always be ways to work to reduce costs. But it's also something how you're working with human beings. You're working with thousands of people in the industry. And there is also a need to see to have long-term thinking, to bring stability, to take away the lack of uncertainty being there. So it's a dilemma, actually. In one way, it's, everyone has a need for cash. Everyone needs to do changes immediately. And on the other side, you should actually work to attract young people for the industry, people from all over the world to join the industry. And then if you go up and down every second year, that's not a good situation if you would like to be in an attractive industry. So that's actually, if you are bent on burden for the time being, if you're elder settled for the time being, I think this is some of the challenges actually. How fast could we actually reduce the cost? Thinking about for the industry, what's going to be actually the long-term thinking and the way people see at the industry. But it's a very dramatic situation, and I haven't seen any oil price for today. Probably shouldn't do it either. But okay, hopefully someone see that this don't work. People need to come together, and they have to find a solution together. Either it's OPEC plus, including Russia, even the US shale, the Texas railway system need to be a part of it. But first the US Congress need to agree. And they disagreed yesterday, solution in the US, and then hopefully someone could sit down around the table or by digital media like this and to see how to solve this.
So I think that's a great, in a way, offer or invitation to the leaders, both of the industry and political leaders. Is there anything that you'd specifically want to put out there as advice to them right now? What do they need to be doing when looking after their people, whether they are leaders of a business or political leaders right now?
You know, and this is not the time for political victories. This is actually the time to be together. This is the time to actually to have unity instead of spreading around with different thoughts. And we know for the last years we have seen challenging global political situation with US, China, a lot of countries in the Middle East, Russia, etc., etc. Everyone is going to lose if this is continuing. So therefore, they need to find a solution. They need to be around the table and they need to discuss how they could solve this. And probably US need to be a part of it as well. And that's had never been easy before, and it's probably not going to be easy this time, but it's an extremely different position from what we have seen from before. This is a global crisis going on all over. And it's not only one crisis, financial crisis, but also a medical health crisis, which is terrible for people around.
And leaders themselves now are, of course, meeting many different demands, both in terms of finding the solutions that you're describing, meeting with politicians, meeting with peers. Now's the time, as you say, for coming together and discussing what solutions they can create together. And they're also needing to take care of their people directly, lead their organization at a time of uncertainty when many people are losing their jobs. This is a very challenging time for both the leaders and employees. So what does it take of leaders, do you think, today when they are facing their organization now in these hard times?
And of course, it's a combination. Leaders should also see strategy and see what's the next step, what's the next move. Not what's going to happen today, but what's going to happen tomorrow, either tomorrow, but what's going to happen in the future. Because we need to plan organizations, we need to plan activities for the years to come after this crisis, when it's finally come to an end. So strategic leadership is extremely important for the time being.
Right.
And then you also have a responsibility to be there for the people. Be visible, show your face, meet them, not do any handshakes anymore, keep the distance, but nevertheless, be there as a leader. Understand actually the challenges. How the uncertainty they are facing, both on the health situation and the economic situation. So I think as a leader, keep close, not by handshake, keep close. Be sure to be as a visionary leader, also understand and see the people in your organization, and then prepare for the next step, which need to be there, and which is going to be very different from how we used to work, how it used to be. This is not, when this is over, it's not like people are just turning on one button and say that, okay, 2020 finished, now we are ready for something else, which is going to be the same as it used to be. It's going to be different. And we need to be prepared for that.
I think that's a really important message that I hope our listeners are really able to focus on as a takeaway from this, which is being both long-term focused and strategic, as you say, and also being very present and visible today, managing both of those perspectives. You've certainly experienced your share of crises in working in the energy industry over the years. What would you say has been the most severe emergency or critical situation you've had to directly be involved in and handle as a leader?
Yeah. For the energy industry itself, I still remember 1999. I think I went to Houston with invitations and letters from Norwegian companies. I think they needed 7,000 engineers. And we were doing a kind of road show, recruiting people, bring them into Stavanger to Norway. And before we came home, the oil price was $9 a barrel. And it was a total crisis all over. It's easy to forget, was 1999. Most of the people have forgot it already. We have been through a crisis before and we have managed. On a personal level, I'm never going to forget the Sleipner disease. The boat on its way from Stavanger to Bergen. A lot of people were killed. A lot of those people were from Stavanger. I met a lot of the people being involved in this, and of course I still remember those meetings. The same with the tsunami in Asia, in the Christmas weekend, New Year's weekend 2004, I think. Many people from our region was part of it, was involved. I met the relatives to those who never came home. And I think I have learned from those experiences how important it is to be visible as a leader, to be there in all kinds of situations, and take part in the situation which people is facing for tragedies. So I'm never going to forget some of the faces, some of the memories, and it's a long-lasting experience actually.
I can only imagine. I mean, those tragedies that you describe really, I think, have left their mark both in Norwegian society, but on the industry in terms of what that really meant at a personal level for people beyond what's happening in the business, but certainly what's happening in individuals' lives. What would you say leaders should be doing to take care of employees perhaps not in, or maybe in some of those very extreme situations where there is a loss of life or illness, but certainly just going forward now where they see their employees are challenged or stressed or under pressure, what would your advice be to them?
To bring certainty, stability, and knowing that after this terrible situation, there's going to be a future. Be close to people, and use also the opportunity to say when you have some, there's still plenty of things happening on an everyday basis, which also is good. Today, as one example, one of our employees, Angelo, he is 50 years old. We have the birthday song for him. We couldn't go to the office, but we did it on a social media event.
Wonderful.
And I also think it's important that you could go to TV today and you can see 24/7 about what's happening around the world. I don't think that's wise, actually. We need to have some slots doing other things, relaxing, socializing, by going out to the trip, walking around, do something else. I think that's extremely important. And for the time being, as leaders, we also need to take care of the employees, that they don't stress the situation more than it's needed to do. We have an excellent social welfare system in Norway. We have very good leaders in the parliament and the government, and we have a banking financial system that works very well. We have an excellent medical system. So in this situation, I think even we should remind ourselves that we are quite lucky being here in this country for the time being. And everyone should take care. Everyone should be careful. Social distance is not a word for me, actually, but we need to get used to it for a while. And then also knowing that after this, something else is going to happen, which is going to be much better.
I think that's an important message as well, that people need to hear and are, as we adjust from crisis now, perhaps to what I refer to as a new normal, that we are looking for, also, apart from managing our daily challenges and adjusting to being in home offices or social distancing, but we're also looking to our leaders for what's coming up. Where is this going? What kind of securities are possible in the future, both job-wise, health-wise, and personally? So I think it's a great balance that you refer to that we need to have. So keeping our eye on what's developing in the crisis, but also making sure we take care of our physical and mental health, so we have a good perspective on that balance. So let's move to ONS, and the theme is togetherness or collaboration. You call it togetherness, and there's a lot within that phrase. Do you think the community spirit, the togetherness that we're feeling around us now, that you've also talked about, will continue after the crisis? Not just for individuals, but for the industry and for nations.
And we have a very important task there. We need that spirit to continue after the crisis. We have seen before that we have had a kind of commonhood. We have been together. We have worked very hard, good together in crisis. Everyone has been there supporting, bringing food to the medical stations, coming in, etc., etc. And then within a week or two, everything is closed down and you're sitting in the home studio, in the living room and seeing the TV or walking about whatever it should be. So we need actually to have this progress and kind of long-term thinking. After this crisis, we need to keep on with the good work, where people are just emailing each other or texting each other and watching their neighbors. Could we do something? Could we buy something? Could we go to the shop for them? What could we do together? With the social distance, of course. And I think we have, for the last generation, this is something which we actually have lost. In the former days, it was much more natural to be there for each other. And
right, interesting.
And hopefully we could actually, if we try to be, to have this in our mindset when the crisis is over, that all the good things which brought us together, which we are doing as team, we should do that. We should continue with that. And that's also my advice to the great Prime Minister Anna Solberg, to the leaders in the Parliament, etc. The spirit of this should be lasting, and there should be political initiatives actually to work with it, and maybe municipalities also could work with that on a closer level. So let's hope.
I'm with you on that. I have faith that some of the lessons we're learning in these times and the actions that we're taking are going to be captured and taken forward with us when the crisis is over. I certainly think there's a lot to be learnt from the changes that we're having to make to the way we do our business, but also the way we support each other on a personal level. Talking of your leadership then with ONS and your ONS team, how are you handling the changes that you see around you now with your team directly? You mentioned a little bit earlier you had a great team around you. I know many of them, so I can verify that to be true. But how are you handling the situation yourselves now?
Yeah, it's fantastic people, and we try to be in touch as much as possible. Everyone are working at home, and for me it's also important a lot of them have small children, and of course I understand very well that they are not able then to get up, start at 8 o'clock and finish at 4 o'clock. They also have to take care of the children in the meantime. That's a part of it. Then we meet on Teams, we phone, we text, going to be a lot of emails. Yesterday we had a project meeting with I think it was 17 in the staff being presented, not around the table, but in the laptop, with a lot of initiatives, a lot of progress. People are working really hard. And I also see that they always have been emailing in the weekends, etc. But there is an understanding that, okay, you should get, if it's a sunny day, spend some time outside, please. Then there's going to be rainy days, do more work at that time. So also to be sure that, it's a different situation. So people should use the opportunities being there. The team is just fabulous. So they have a lot of initiatives, a lot of plans coming in with. So we will see at the ONS 2020 that's going to be more unexpected thing actually to happen because of the creativity popping up in this situation.
And that's, I guess, perhaps something we can really close in on now. ONS 2020, you're still planning for, you still see it going ahead. Are you making any adjustments for the possibility that the current crisis may last longer than a couple of months, for example?
We are following everything very closely. And we are working, planning on an everyday basis, 24/7 almost, to be sure to present an excellent ONS in the 31st of August to the 3rd of September. And then we just have to see what's happening, what the authorities are saying. For the time being, it's just to move on, be ready, and to cut the ribbon in the end of August. And we hope that that's going to be the situation. So that's our goal, and that's what we're working for every day.
That's fantastic. I really hope so too, personally, that we get to a place where we're able to all meet at ONS and look back on this and take the lessons.
I also think, sorry to interrupt, but I also think people have a need to get together and to be together.
Absolutely, together. Yeah. I love that. Is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners and the audience watching now on Facebook Live before we close out for today?
If I might say, take care of each other. It's a challenging situation. We all know. And there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and that's understandable. But okay, then remember, we are living in Norway. We have a health system. We have a financial situation. We have also some money spread around, and we have a good leadership. So try actually to look forward. There's going to be a much better days than this one's to come. Keep distance from other people. It's terrible to say this, but it's important, so protect yourself against the virus, please. That means also that the situation is not going to last as long as it otherwise would have done. So take care of each other. That's my last words.
That's wonderful. It's been so great to have the opportunity to check in with you, Leif Johan, and give us the time. I know you're caught up in lots of meetings and during these times online, as well as planning for ONS 2020. So really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us today.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure, and all the best to you.
You too. Thanks. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.